if you're trying to be a father in the moment and your kids need you to not cry because they need you to be strong and stoic and present and available mentally, emotionally, so they can cry, then it's not appropriate for you to. If you're really upset about, for example, your mother passing away, but you're at work and you're sitting down with a client, probably not appropriate to bawl your eyes out in front of them because you have work to do as a man. But yes, sometimes you need to stuff it and say, hey, I'm just gonna put a pin in that crying for a minute. I'm gonna do my work. I'll come back to that when it's appropriate. So when is it appropriate? All right, Kipp, now that we got all the banter out of the way, pre-recording, we can actually get started. So I figured, some of the banter is good for the guys. Some of it, they probably just don't give a crap about any of the things that we talk about.
Although it is a little bit of a necessity just to touch base really quick before we hit the record button. It's always good. So
just to ease us into it a little bit. Well, good. Well, should we get to some headlines and then we'll get to some questions for today?
Yeah, you're first on the headlines. I might disappoint on the headlines, to be honest with you. But I have some opinions to share nonetheless.
Okay. Well, we're never at a loss for opinions, so that's good. Obviously this week or weekend, the big headline is opening ceremonies for the 2024 Olympics. Yeah. And the outrage right now is that the opening ceremonies consisted of drag queens, essentially, and a guy that looked like a Smurf. I don't really understand what that was about.
Nope.
And did you see it?
I saw. I've heard all the upset about it, but I didn't watch it.
Blue. He's like painted as a Smurf. I'm like, I don't know what that is. But anyways, they essentially recreated Da Vinci's The Last Supper. Yeah. And everybody's all outraged and upset. And I'm not outraged about it. It's really disrespectful, and it's by design. Yeah. Most of these people, these deconstructionists, they hate modern civilization. They hate God. They hate religion. They hate goodness. And so they just attempt to make a mockery out of it. And they do it on purpose, deliberately and intentionally, to get a rise out of people. I have friends like that. They'll jump on Facebook and they say the most outlandish things, not because they actually believe it, but because they just want to piss people off, it seems like.
Yeah.
And, to a degree, it's funny, but that's what these people do. And what's frustrating to me is that we give them platforms and we take them seriously. And the best thing that we can do is to not participate in the shenanigans. Meaning, just turn off the Olympics.
Yeah.
Don't watch the Olympics. Don't support the Olympics. Don't buy from the sponsors who are sponsoring the Olympics. Don't go to those countries during the Olympics. We can vote with the most important thing, our time, attention, and our money. And the more that we drop all this stuff all over social media, that they're getting exactly what they want. Yeah. They want the attention. They want the eyeballs. They want the outrage because it drives traffic to their videos and their events and things like this, and then they can profit off of it. So if you just cut off the fuel source, I've got a candle that sits on my table out there, and so I lit the candle the other day, and then to I can't even think of it, but not to have it go anymore, you just put a lid on it, right? Because then all of a sudden it chokes itself out. There's no more oxygen for that candle to burn. So that's what we need to do. We cannot give these people platforms. We cannot give them our hard-earned dollars. And instead, why don't we take our money and take our attention and our energy and start shifting it and focusing it on good, wholesome entertainment, uplifting, edifying content, educational, inspiring, entertaining mediums, and all of that other stuff. Just let it go. I mean, some stuff needs to get brought up and we need to pay attention to because it's so egregious that we can't allow it to even exist. But in most cases, it's just fake outrage. They're trying to work you up, and let's just divert our time, energy, and resources into more productive activities.
Do you think, so there was an apology that was given, right, by the Olympics for that opening ceremony. That implies do you think they didn't know, or is this all part of the strategy? Like they knew what it was about. It would generate clickbait. It would create a wildfire. And then if it gets too high or too high end, we'll do an apology. No harm, no foul. We're all better off for it.
Of course they knew.
Because
they did.
How would you
did the Last Supper on purpose?
Or how would the committee not know what the
intentionally did that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the point of it.
Yeah.
And then we live in this culture now where apologies and accountability, apologies exist, but a real apology doesn't.
Yeah.
Accountability does not exist. A great example of that, and this is a little different now because I can't remember her name, the director of the Secret Service, it's the charade. It's you go in front of Congress, you say you plead the fifth, or you give them no answers, and you say I don't recall, and we're in an investigation. There's no answers, there's no accountability, and then she just decides to stick around. Now, at this point, there may not be a great example because she ultimately did step down, but there's zero accountability. So I could just say the most outlandish thing to anybody or about anything, and then I could just come in and say sorry, and the next minute somebody will be outraged about something else. So it was deliberate, it's intentional. So don't even apologize. It's better if you don't apologize because you don't actually really care. What you care about is that other people got upset, not that you did the wrong thing.
Yeah, totally. For me, I think the main thing that crossed my mind, obviously this was all over the internet, and so I was thinking about the same thing, about how much of this was like highly intentional, just knowing it would be controversial, knowing that it would fire people up, and it would just create a wildfire of awareness of what they're doing, because that's what happens even when we complain. Like, look at us, right? Anybody that didn't know about it now knows about it because we're even talking about it, right? So it drives awareness of something. And then the only other thing that crossed my mind this weekend that just I don't understand how we've gotten here, and I don't have a strong, believe it or not, a strong opinion about. I have a strong opinion about the event, but I don't have anything to say for it other than I'm amazed how naive we are about history, and that really is founded in the people that were the American communist protests in Philadelphia, right, where we have U.S. citizens march in the streets of Philly suggesting that we need to go in the direction of communism. And it blows my mind that we are so naive that has been tried and it doesn't work, or even what it means for them, right? Like, are you honestly okay with no private property? You don't own private property, right? It's given to you. That's what you want, right? Like, I don't know if people ever complete the thought, right? Or if it's just tribalization and they feel like they're fighting. I don't understand where the naiveness is coming from or the lack of critical thinking, but it just, I don't know. It blows my mind, man. And more and more I was talking with
I have some theories on that.
Well, and I was talking with our good friend, she's in town from London, and she was asking me about politics. And she's like, well, what's your take on this and take on that? And I'm like, you know what, Susie, I go, in the grand scheme of things, I think as citizens, we get where our government is an outward expression of where we are socially.
Definitely.
And that's the sad part.
Collectively.
That's the sad part, is collectively we're getting exactly what we've asked for. And
of course.
And that makes me sad. But it also reinforces what we're doing here in the Iron Council within Order of Man, and the way we show up in our homes is ultimately the most critical thing. And so maybe that's my takeaway, is just what we're doing is on the right path, and we need to keep up the fight. What was your thoughts, though, of why people
and not only keep it up, but maximize it, continue. Well, really, there's two camps. There's evil people, and then there's ignorant people. And evil people are the ones making the decisions, calling the shots, the ignorant. You also often hear them called useful idiots. They are. They're idiots. They're naive. You said naive. They're ignorant. They don't know. And the reason they don't know is because of this. This is my theory anyways. There's the Overton window. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, Glenn Beck wrote a book.
So the Overton window.
Around this concept.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I haven't read it. But the Overton window is basically, in this context, the window of that which is acceptable in the political space. You know, you have the far left and you have the far right, but there's the Overton window. That's where 99% of the population exists. And so what ends up happening is if you push too hard past the Overton window, it's not comfortable for people and they revolt against it. A great example of that was Bud Light.
Yeah.
Bud Light pushed too far outside of the Overton window and they got hurt bad because of it, which is good. But you know what? The Overton window just shifted a little bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't stay there. It just shifts a little bit. So when Bud Light takes 3 steps forward past the range of the acceptable Overton window, when they backpedal, they only take 2 steps back. They don't take the 3 steps back. They take the 2 steps back. Yeah. And then the next time, they take their 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. And all of a sudden, now you have this Overton window that shifts so far that you have guys like Bill Maher and Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and even Mark Zuckerberg was making comments about Trump being badass after that assassination attempt. It's been pushed so far that the liberal party, the Democratic Party, is no longer recognizable as what it was 20, 30 years ago. Yeah. So in order to combat that, the reality is you can't just be neutral.
Yep.
Because people are going to keep pushing on you. At some point, you have to fight back.
Yeah.
And you have to push the Overton window back this way. And I hope that's what conservatives can do. I hope that's what Christians will do. Christians don't do that. Christians are weak. Modern day Christians are weak.
Yeah. Agreed.
Their biggest virtue is niceness. Just be nice. You have to be nice. Jesus wants you to be nice. Jesus was nice. Oh, it's so misconstrued.
Totally.
He wasn't nice. He was kind, empathetic, compassionate, but he was also passionate.
Totally.
He was also convicted. He died a horrible, gruesome, miserable death for what he believed in. He was not a pacifist.
Yeah.
He was a champion of Christianity, of those virtues. So we need strong people who are not going to just simply say, yeah, it's okay. Like,
I don't want to make it
and kind of resist. No, we need fighters.
Yeah.
We need fighters who are going to push back in hard ways. And that's a little bit about the point I was making with where you spend your money and your time, your energy. Fight back and put it into other avenues that are better for you.
Totally. I love it, man. All right, let's tackle the Foundry first. So we have some questions from the Iron Council. To learn more about the Iron Council, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council, and then we'll jump over to our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/group/Order of Man. Adam Lewis, how to address a passing of a parent, a mother in particular, suddenly while also having your first son within a week. He said he mentioned this internally within the Iron Council, which is one of the greatest benefits of our mastermind, because these guys, we can deal with real things in the real world, but he wanted to also get our opinions on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm really sorry for that loss. I've never dealt with this specifically, but when my daughter was born, my ex-wife's grandfather passed away just a couple of days later. And they were really, really close. And fortunately, he got to see our daughter before he passed away. But I know that was a really hard time on her because she felt so conflicted. And there was almost a little bit of guilt about being so happy about this new addition to the family, knowing that her grandfather, somebody who was the patriarch really of the family, had passed away. And that was a hard thing, I remember, for her to wrestle with. Like, being happy and joyful and then being sad and sorrowful. It was really, really difficult. And here's what I would say. You can be both.
Yeah.
You can be both. You can be sad about the loss and you can be really grateful and happy for the addition to the family. I think that's probably, did he say his mother passed away?
Yes.
I think that's what she would want. I think she would want you to take the lessons that she taught you, the experiences that you guys have had together, the good times, the bad times, the hard times, the up to all of it, and pour into that little girl, little boy.
Little boy.
Did he say?
Little boy.
Little boy. Pour into that little boy and take those lessons and pass those things down. I wish there was something I could do, like just say, hey, step 1 is this, step 2 is this, and step 3 is this. And this afternoon, you'd be feeling a lot better. I would just say it's okay to be sad and happy. And just remember what your mom would want and how if she was still here with us, how she would treat that little baby boy. And you can be her proxy.
Yeah, I haven't dealt with this obviously either, not this specific scenario, but I mean, what a great example of the cycle of life. I mean, this is what it is, you know, amazing blessings and new life and the creation and we all have mortality knocking on our doorstep. And that's beautiful too, you know? So I know it's not easy with a parent passing away and it's not maybe ideal, but we will all experience that unless we die prematurely early before our parents. But it is part of the cycle of life. And so I think we talked about this last week a little bit as well. It's like, it's okay, right? That's the other thing. It's okay that you're sad and it's okay that you're happy. Like, don't make it wrong. Sit with it, be with it, embrace it, see it for what it is. And my apologies, man. I feel for you losing a parent. That's super tough. And I'm also excited for you. Having your first son. I mean,
yeah,
it's a miracle and it's a beautiful thing. So
sometimes I feel weird when people have questions about things like this. It almost, whatever, any advice I could give almost comes across as insensitive.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know what you're dealing with. I don't really, even though I might have had similar experiences, maybe even if my mother had passed away, knock on wood, she has not. But it's still different.
Yeah.
And for me to give you an opinion or input or advice almost seems like, again, insensitive. So I think my biggest thing, like both of us said, is it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel how you're feeling and you can experience all the range of emotions. The only other thing I would say is just be careful of how you react to your emotions, because you're probably going to be really angry on one, that's the process of grief, is some of that is going to manifest as anger, and that's going to create problems. Your wife's probably stressed out because of the baby and nobody's sleeping the way they should. And so there's a lot of factors here that can exacerbate the problems that come with being angry and upset and hurt. So just be careful. Make sure you take time for yourself. If you need to get out of the house for a little bit, go get a workout in, go for a walk around the block. You've got guys in the Iron Council, call them up, talk with them, release some of that stuff, that frustration, in appropriate ways so they don't come out in inappropriate ways.
Yeah, good call. All right, Jay Lowry, I've heard you often say in my words that crying is not masculine. Can you give us some examples of when it may or may not be appropriate to cry?
I didn't. He's saying I said crying is not masculine?
He says in his words. So, he's saying in his words,
okay.
It sounds like you're saying, it's not appropriate. So when is it and when is it not?
Okay, got it. I'm like, I don't think I ever said crying is not masculine. Like, we all, in fact, if anything, I said we all cry.
He's
right?
owning his interpretation. Yeah.
Okay, got it. But he's asking, when is it appropriate and when is it not? It's not appropriate when you have shit to do. That's it. Yeah. Like, if you're trying to be a father in the moment and your kids need you to not cry because they need you to be strong and stoic and present and available mentally, emotionally, so they can cry, then it's not appropriate for you to.
Yeah.
If you're really upset about, for example, your mother passing away, but you're at work and you're sitting down with a client and you're talking with them about what you need to address and how you're going to work on their financial portfolio, probably not appropriate to bawl your eyes out in front of them because you have work to do as a man. And so sometimes it requires you to stuff it a little bit. I know that's not going to be popular in modern culture, but yes, sometimes you need to stuff it and say, hey, I'm just going to put a pin in that crying for a minute. I'm going to do my work. I'll come back to that when it's appropriate. So when is it appropriate? Well, it's appropriate when you're alone, for sure. It's appropriate when there's, a significant life event that crying is not going to hinder you from performing. So, for example, at your mother's funeral, I think it's completely appropriate to cry and feel that. Like nobody's expecting you to step up in some powerful way. Now, if you give the eulogy, probably wouldn't be wise to get up there like a blubbering idiot because nobody's going to understand and you're not even honoring who you're giving the eulogy for. So that's the litmus test to me is when you have things to do. And also, I would also say this, what do people need from you?
Yeah.
Your kids at the funeral, for example, they actually might need to see you cry. And sometimes they might need to see that, oh, you know what? I know dad cries because I've seen him cry, but he's not crying right now. And there's something powerful about that too. So that's my litmus test. Like when I have things to get done, I'm trying to think who else, maybe that's another question. Like who can you cry around? Definitely people very close to you when it's appropriate. Crying on social media is not appropriate. You see people like they'll set up their phones and they're like, I'm so lonely on Valentine's Day and I'm making this cake by myself. I'm like, it's not appropriate to cry. It's not even real. It's all manufactured anyways. Yeah. Maybe if you're sitting down with your therapist and you're drumming up some old painful memories and you get emotional, that's an appropriate time. That's why you're there. Maybe if you're talking with a friend about real issues and I've cried in front of friends. Kipp, I may have even been emotional in front of you that way at a couple of times over the past several years. But it's not like we were training jujitsu while I was doing it or, like hanging out with the family at the lake and I'm crying my eyes out in front of you. Like, it's okay to do it. You just have to do it at appropriate times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's spot on. I mean, is it undermining your ability to serve those that you need to take care of? And it's just like everything else, right? Like, hey, does it benefit you? What's the price? Is it serving you? Yes or no? And I love what you said, Ryan. Like sometimes it does serve our families to let them know that we're hurt, right? Or that we're struggling. But make sure of that, right? And don't be selfish in our position of looking for attention and using that as a tool for ourselves. And so just don't undermine yourself is ultimately, I'm just saying it a different way. But I love that you said that. And I think there's nothing I'd really add. In fact, I shouldn't have said anything at all. There you go.
That's about 90% of what I deal with, guys. Kipp interjecting when he shouldn't have said anything
you're
at
like,
all.
you just said it a different way.
No, I always appreciate.
It's good.
There's another factor I thought about, Kipp, too, is this is hard to do in the moment if you're feeling very emotional and overwhelmed, that the point to where you feel like you need to physically cry. Yeah. If it's appropriate, there might even be opportunities for you to explain that to your kids. Like, hey guys, like I'm pretty upset right now. Grandma just passed away and I'm having a really hard time. I'm going to be okay, but it's okay to be sad. And I'm sad right now. Like I'm really upset. So I'm going to take some time for myself in the room or go on a walk and, probably a little bit of crying and things like that. But I'm going to get through it. When I come back, we're all going to have dinner together. We're going to have a great evening, or we're all going to go on a walk together. But just be vocal about what you're experiencing, because kids don't know how to process all of that. We as adults don't know how to process it. So if you've never cried and all of a sudden you're crying, the kids are like, whoa, what?
Crazy.
What is happening here? Yeah. So I think just having a little bit of mindfulness in front of people who are impacted by the way you show up would suggest that you maybe explain a little bit about what you're dealing with.
Totally. Well, and even that in itself is a great tip. Why are you crying? I love what you said earlier. Adam had the question around, dealing with a parent that passes suddenly. And you said it's hard to give advice in that example because it's so different and what are you dealing with? That's really key there. What are you dealing with? Because if my mom passed away, the remorse and the sadness I'm going to have is different. Why? Because she was a different woman than Adam's mom. And our relationships were different. And what I'm struggling with is different. And I might have regret where Adam may not, and everything. And maybe that's a little bit of advice in both these scenarios is be mindful of what is it that you're dealing with. Because I think sometimes we'll sit, right? We'll just sit with it and go, oh, I'm so sad. Why? What is it? What is it? Where's the lesson here? What am I dealing with? Why is this a struggle? And process the why behind some of our emotions, so then that way we can grow from them. Otherwise, you'll just be wandering around I'm so mad and upset, and we're not even dealing with it anyway, right? And we're not growing from it.
Yeah, good point.
Nathan Strubble. See, I pulled out some random shiz there just to provide some value. Nathan Strubble, my question has four parts. Why do men need to be initiated? Part number one. Why does it matter that we are called men by other men? And once you are considered a man, can you lose that status? And do women have similar initiations?
I'm pulling up a quote while you're saying that. There's a quote. This is one of my favorite quotes. It's a little bit different, but I'm going to give it some context. And it's this: a child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. And it reminds me a little bit of initiation, because if a young man, you said a man initiated, I would just change the verbiage. And I know you meant this, but a boy.
Yeah.
If a boy is not initiated, he'll burn the village down just to feel its warmth, meaning he's not prudent. He's dumb. He's immature. He doesn't realize the impact of his decisions and his actions. He's making short-term decisions that have long-term negative ramifications. And so a man needs to be initiated into manhood. There's a little bit of a lesson I want to share here that I've spent so much time thinking about, and I wish more people understood this. A lot of people will say masculinity is good, or some people will say masculinity is inherently bad, right? Toxic. Masculinity is neither. It's neither good nor bad. Masculinity, by its definition, is a set of characteristics and traits that we attribute to males. That's all masculinity is. And masculinity is based on our biological hardwiring. So if you look at men relative to women, we have a propensity for violence. We have a propensity for competitiveness, for risk-taking, for physical violence. Like, these are all things that men, as women can exhibit those things, but men generally are more prone to these behaviors. But just because a man is competitive doesn't mean it's always bad. Competition has driven innovation and life-saving technology and lifted more people out of poverty because of competition. But also, it's caused us to do some shady shit, up to murdering people, because we're trying to compete over a limited amount of resources. So is it bad or good? It's neither. It's how we use it. And so the difference between masculinity, something that's amoral, and manliness is the distinction I make.
Yeah.
A man is somebody who can harness their masculinity, their just God-given traits, into productive outcomes for themselves and other people. And that's what we would call a man. So unless a boy learns how to harness his masculinity into something productive, he will never become a man, because he's not acting manly.
He's not serving people with that. Yeah, he's just reckless.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's reckless. He's destroying, he's stealing, he's consuming, he's not producing. So this is why it's so crucial. The second part of the question was, why is it important that we're called men by other men? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
because you have to know your place. You have to know. John Eldridge in his book, Wild at Heart, makes the case that men are always asking the question, am I capable and do I have what it takes? Only another man can tell you that, or in relation to another man. Because when I look and see what other people are doing with their physical health or with their business or in their family, Kipp, I look up to you from a family perspective. If I didn't have that frame of reference, I wouldn't have anything to judge my own performance on. Yeah. So I can look at you and say, well, Kipp is doing awesome. He's showing me what is possible. I can't have that unless you're there leading the way. There has to be another man leading the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can fall into comparison trap and all these other things, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Other men are able to show us what's possible, and I want to know that I have a seat at the table. If I value our relationship, Kipp, it's important for me to show up as a friend. It's important for me to show up to these conversations ready and prepared. It's the respect you deserve from the relationship that we have. So I think it's really important that you view me as a man. And I would imagine it's important that I view you as a man, because now we're peers, we're brothers.
Totally.
We're on the same playing field.
Well, and I think,
so that's important.
how much of this would you say is also the importance of establishing standards, right? Like, regardless of the masculinity question or initiation into manhood, take anything that establishes baselines of standards. Let's use, maybe it's a little bit controversial, but let's just use college degrees as an example. We get rid of it. There's no such thing. There's no associates, there's no bachelor's, there's no doctorate. There's just school. How do you know? Like, how does one go, hey, I've done it. I've reached a level, or we take away belt systems in jiu-jitsu. We just train. How do I know I'm black belt? How do I know I'm an expert? You don't, right? And so part of this is just the value of frameworks and standards. So people have something that they're progressing towards, and there's value in knowing that. There's value in knowing that you've achieved something. Now, of course, there's false dichotomies there's dichotomies all over the place, right? You could say, well, yeah, Kipp, but then if you're always chasing the belt and you're not learning, of course. But there's benefits in the standards, so we know where we are and are we progressing and have we reached something. And so maybe that's part of this as well.
Yeah, I agree. What was the third part? Can you lose
it?
Your status?
Yeah, can you lose your status once you've had it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Like, we all hear the man card.
Yeah.
You lost your man card. But that's actually a true thing. Criminal activity is a great example of that. If somebody is let's say somebody murders or rapes somebody else, we take that individual out of society because he's proven he's no longer going to contribute in a manly way. So we remove him from society. We isolate him from all the normal people, and he's punished. Can he redeem himself? Yes. Prison sentences. He can come out and we'll give him another shot, depending on what the crime was. And then he gets a chance to prove himself again. But yeah, of course you can lose it.
Yeah.
And in other ways too. Kipp, again, to go back to our relationship, if you take advantage of me in some way, some egregious way, or you start talking negatively about me behind my back, then you lose your status in my eyes.
Yeah.
You are no longer my peer. We're not friends, we're not business partners, and you're no longer my peer. So you didn't lose some objective status, but in my eyes, yeah, absolutely you did.
Totally.
So you have to be vigilant about continuing to behave in the way a man would behave.
Yeah. Why do you think, and I know this question's obviously for Nathan more than you, why this question? Why do you get this? Why do we get these questions? What is it that we're validating?
I don't really understand what you're asking.
Like if Nathan were on the call right now, I'd say, why, Nathan? Why do you care? Why do you think guys ask this question? Because we get this, right? The initiation. How do I know I'm a man? Like, this comes up all the time. What is it that we're seeking for?
I think I want to be very cautious on this because I don't know what Nathan's experiencing, but in my experience, a lot of this question comes from men who didn't have a father around.
Yeah.
And they don't feel like men.
And they're grabbing for straws.
I don't know if that's Nathan's case. Yeah, they want to feel like that.
Yeah.
They want to feel manly. They want to feel valuable. They want to answer John Eldridge's question, do I have what it takes? Am I capable? They want to do that, but dad wasn't around. I don't know how to change the oil on my truck. I don't know how to change the tire. I don't know how to do basic maintenance around the house. I don't know how to shoot a gun. I don't know. I'm not physically fit. So like all these things that we put value on as men. And by the way, those things are all valuable. Those are not just random activities that we just have deemed manly. No, those are manly behaviors and activities. Protect, provide, preside.
Yeah.
So usually these questions come from guys who don't, I'm not saying they aren't, I'm saying they don't feel manly because they haven't developed that or haven't learned that. And they're at a stage now, whether they're 20, 25, 45, 55, where they feel like, I don't feel like a man.
Yeah.
What do I need to do in order to feel like a man? And the answer is be a man. Do what men do.
Yeah. Thanks for adding that. All right, Philip.
Would you agree?
I agree. I think so. I think so. I think it's also, how's this just that? Add a little. I think most men see their value in the space of feeling respected. In fact, I would argue that that's like what we attribute love. That's what love looks like, is respect. And I think a lot of us are probably living lives where that's lacking. We don't feel respected. We don't feel respected by our kids. Maybe we don't feel respected by our spouses, or maybe even in the workplace. And so we might even be doing quote unquote masculine things, but that confirmation of our value is not being fulfilled. Whether it should be or not, that's a whole other discussion. We could probably go down that rat hole. But nonetheless, I think it's a lack of meaning for themselves due to the lack of respect that they're getting.
I don't disagree. I would just say, and this might go down that hole you were talking about. It's a lot of guys aren't respectable. Yeah. And I already know the answer to that some people are going to say, well, yeah, I am. I'm working hard. I'm doing all these things, but my wife still ... Okay, then have you communicated that to her?
Totally.
Have you found out what your boundaries are? Have you articulated that to her? Are you treating her that way yourself? And if you haven't done any of those things, then sure, you could work hard and you could check all the boxes, but also setting boundaries, communicating clearly, and treating people the way that you want to be treated is also a measurement of being respectable.
Yeah. And that's why we get guys that double down on provide. Kind of easier maybe, and they just work their asses off and provide maybe really well, and then presiding is not being addressed, protecting is not being addressed, and the provide is financial, but we're not providing emotional safety, we're not providing a home of spirituality and these other elements that aren't that easy, as simple as bringing a paycheck home.
I agree. It's easy to get into that financial provision role, but we want to be well-rounded men. Yeah. We don't want to be one-dimensional. We want to be robust, rounded men.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Next question. Felipe de Ambros. Let me know how I did on that one.
Is it Philippe? Is it Philippe?
Felipe, I think. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Anyways.
Yeah.
De Ambros. Okay.
Any steps one could take to help their brothers see that they need to grow up without coming across too forceful? I have 3 younger brothers, and the youngest is 29. However, they all act like they're 15 or younger, and all living with our mother. Our father died 23 years ago, and I told 15-year-old me that I'm the leader now. I failed. I know it wasn't really my responsibility then. However, I feel like I should be now. Any advice? Good question. I like this question. I'm excited.
I do too. I don't know why you feel like you failed, but based on what you
still
shared,
living at
it
home.
doesn't sound like you failed to me.
Yeah, but they're still living at home.
Okay. Yeah.
And dad told him, hey, step into that role, and he's feeling like, he failed his brothers?
Yeah, this is a good question. We've answered questions like this a lot.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get somebody to
How do
see
you
the
change
error of their
someone?
ways? And
Yeah.
it's hard because you can't. And in a way, I don't know, but mom might really like having the boys around because dad's not around.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like she lost her husband. This was a while ago, clearly, but there's no man in the house, and so once the boys leave, that's it. So she's probably enabling them, is the reality of the situation, and they're taking full advantage of it. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, we don't know, and to what degree, but they're taking advantage of her enabling behavior. So I almost wonder if the real conversation is with mom.
Yeah.
Now, in the meantime, but I think you should have a deep conversation with her about it. Multiple conversations in a respectful way, because I guarantee she's feeling away. I would put money on the fact that she's enabling it because it's her safety blanket.
Yeah. It's her meaning and purpose and,
Yeah. But in the meantime, you need to there's 3 other brothers, is that right?
Yeah, 3 other. And the youngest is 29.
Oh, so they're old, so they're grown men. They should be out. Okay, yeah. You need to get them out of their circle into your circle. Yeah. I don't know who they're spending time with. I don't know who their friends are, but I guarantee they're losers.
Yeah.
Because winners don't hang out with people like that. And that, you might hear that and think I'm judging. Yep, I am. I'm not, me personally, I'm not going to spend time with the 35-year-old who lives at his house with his mom unless he's taking care of her because she's terminally ill.
Yeah.
Okay, there's an exception. But just to live there at mommy and daddy's house, no. Because I hang out in a different circle, and it sounds like he does too. So what I would say is get them out of the environment in bite-sized doses. Like if you go out with your friends, invite one of your brothers. Maybe not all of them, because they probably feed off of each other and they're all like clowns, like the 3 amigos together. Yeah. Like get them out one at a time. Like, hey, come train with me this morning. Maybe you go to the gym. Or, hey, guys, I'm going to go run a Spartan race, and we've got 2 or 3 other guys, and I wanted to invite you to come do the Spartan race and train with us. The more you can get them out of their current climate into your climate, and not change your standards. Don't change your behavior. Don't change your standards. You just invite them in. And if they decline and say no, there's not a lot you can do.
Yeah.
But just be open arms, embrace them, bring them into your tribe, and hopefully they'll see that. In the meantime, start having some conversations with mom.
Yeah. So what will happen for a lot of people is they will do this, right? They'll reach out to the brothers, they'll try to get some things, and then we'll get upset. They'll get sideways. Dude, I'm trying this, and those morons aren't listening to me, and you know what I mean? They haven't changed, and I'm investing all my time in them, and it's all because we didn't ensure that we're in a position of influence. So this is what I'd recommend. You can use this 100 different ways. You can use it with your teenage kids, with coworkers, with employees. But the question is, are you in a position to influence them? And this is how you ensure you are. First, your mindset around them needs to be accurate. It has to be genuine. Dale Carnegie, what's this? No one cares about what you have to say until they know how much you care. If you don't care for your brothers, right? And this is kind of, you have a heart at war towards them and you're just trying to change them because you're so annoyed by them, they're going to smell this a mile away. So get over that. Love them. They're crazy. They live at home. Love them anyway. And just kind of get clear in that space. 2, you have to invest time and have a relationship with them. They have to know that you are their big brother and that you genuinely care about their well-being, that you know what's going on in their life, that you understand their struggles, so you have a relationship with them, your mindset's clear with them, and then you're learning from them. What are they dealing with? And this ensures that we don't go into situations with too much ego, assuming too much. So learn and listen, and then you're in a position of correction. That's how. So That's how you, and then what's great about that approach too is, let's say your younger brother doesn't move out. You're not going to get all sideways about it. That's his call. It's crazy, not for me, right? But the mindset helps make sure that you're not doing this from a place of manipulation. And then when your expectations aren't met and it does end up being a covert contract and you're going to get all sideways because your manipulation tactics didn't work. So approach it from a genuine place. And I think you'll set yourself up for success regardless of what they do, because the typical response that we give to these questions is, you don't change people. So stop trying to change someone and just be a great example. And that's all that you have anyway. But there's an element to this.
You brought it up. I just wrote down point number 4 is let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
You said it. Like, if they don't do it, it's not your responsibility. I'm going to say something that might be upsetting, but I have to say it. Your dad did you no justice in telling you that you were the man of the house now.
Yeah, when you're 15.
Bro, you were 15 years old.
Yeah, let go of that too.
You were not the man of the house. You were a boy. Yeah. And I actually commend you for wanting to be that at 15 years old, and commend you, I don't know how old you are now. At the age you are now, I commend you for wanting to be that. But there's some things that you need to let go of and maybe afford yourself some grace that at 15 years old, you didn't know how to raise men. What's wrong with you? Like, I don't know how to raise men. I'm 43 years old.
Yeah.
Like, of course you didn't know how to do it. Of course. And so now there's an opportunity for you to do what you can do, but as you should have been doing all along, like, they're men, they're grown men. They can make their own decisions. That is not a decision for you to make. Yeah.
Well, and what's unfortunate, and we're kind of dissecting your family here, but like the probability is when an older sibling is put in that type of position of quote unquote authority, it's not going to go well anyway. Because your siblings are going to see you as this person that's trying to control them. At 15, you don't know how to influence people. So what do you use? Fear, manipulation, shaming. You use all the wrong tactics at that age because you don't know any better. And so you might even be fighting a little bit of an uphill battle because of that with your siblings, right? So yeah, good call on dad. And an admiral for you to be like, hey, you know what I mean? I need to serve my family, but that's not on you. Yeah, I agree. Tough, man. All right, Tony Behel, advice to shift from a more selfish taker mindset to a giver/service mindset. Oh,
this is beautiful. You can actually be both. The best way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want.
Yeah.
So if you're really selfish, then you should help a lot of people because you're going to get everything you want.
Yeah. How does he make sure that he doesn't come across like the guy that ends up having a relationship with me and I smell it a mile away and I'm like, dude, Tony's only hanging out with me because he's trying to get, right? And it's not genuine service and it doesn't come across genuine.
Well, you have to believe what I just said is true.
Yeah.
Because if you actually, I believe that. That's the way that I view life.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I could even do about it to not have that be the case.
It's a principle. Yeah.
Like, I can't help people and then not be rewarded for it. Like, it's impossible. It might happen in the micro. Like, there might be small examples where I help somebody and they can't do anything for me.
Totally.
But this is just a numbers game. The more people I help, the greater chance I have of getting exactly what I want out of life. Relationships, personal relationships are the same way. Man, if you want a great relationship with a woman, give, serve, love, like, do everything you can, and it will be that way. And I've seen both sides of the table. You want a bad relationship like I had with my ex before things were done? Stop giving. Stop serving. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And with my girlfriend now, I love to be in service. Now, some guys will hear that and it's very frustrating. Like, oh, you're being a beta, you're being a cuck. It's such a dumb, immature, scared way of looking at life.
Yeah.
Like, serving other people doesn't mean you're a slave to them. It doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries. It just means you're choosing to honor that person because you love them and care about them. That's all it means. It means nothing else. So I think being selfish and being selfless are actually more closely aligned than we think that they are. But you have to believe it, to your question, because if you don't believe it, then you will use service as a manipulation tactic to get what you want. It won't actually be true service.
Yeah. Totally. Well, and you say this, Ryan, and I actually think you're a great example of this. But I think an element of this, you have to have an abundance mentality, not a scarcity mindset. Because what will happen is you may want to give help and provide service to someone that you feel is a competitor to you, right? And then your willingness to help them may be diminished because you don't think there's enough to go around. And I think that could be a potential blocker that you have to look past.
I mean, the competitor thing that one's kind of an easy one for me because there's really, when you're looking at it this way, only two types of people. There's the people who are going to do it with or without your help, and there's the people who are not going to do it with or without your help.
Period.
Yeah. Those are the only... The people who are going to do it, they don't actually need your help anyways. They're going to do it whether you help them or not.
Yeah, that's a good
So you might as well help them.
Yeah.
Because then you build goodwill among each other. And the people who are not going to do it, you could give them the blueprint to everything, and they're still not going to do it. So it really doesn't matter. Now, look, I know there's industry secrets and trademark. Of course, I'm not saying don't protect. I have trademarks. I work with attorneys. We have copyrights, trademarks. Like, we protect our shit. But also, like, if somebody reaches out and they're like, hey, what about this? I can share those things. Like, that's not a threat to me.
Yeah. What else do you think might block someone from having this switch? And let me ask this question. And I wish Tony were on the call, right? What's the specific scenario, right? Is this more in the workplace, taker mindset? Where might this show up the most? Someone that has a taker mindset versus that of service?
Yeah, I think probably in romantic relationships probably is one area. Yeah. Definitely the work environment. Like, I'm going to get mine. I need my raise. Like, it's a cutthroat world, lone wolf. Yeah, very posturing, egocentric. It would definitely be there. Okay. But you're asking, what are the barriers to being a giver? I don't know. It's hard for me to resonate why you wouldn't.
Well,
isn't that an amazing thing?
Yeah. Well, I have some
don't
thoughts.
you feel good? Yeah, let me finish this thought out, and I want to hear what you have to say. But doesn't it feel so amazing to give to other people? I don't know. It does for me. Yeah. Like, when I see, like, Kipp, when we went to Hawaii earlier in the year, like, that was a hunt that I invited you on, and I know you didn't have a bow. I had an extra bow. I gave it to you. Like, I didn't need it. Like, it didn't take away from anything. In fact, it was awesome. I was like, oh, cool. And then you shot your first deer. Like, I felt proud for you. Like, I was part of that experience.
Totally.
Because, at the risk of sounding arrogant or weird, but because I created that opportunity for you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away anything that you did from what you did. It doesn't take away anything from what I did. Like, it was harmonious. Like, it was awesome for everybody.
Yeah, totally.
And I think about that even with clients, when people have these mental blocks around money and exchange of value. Man, when I have a client, whether it's somebody who joins the Iron Council or comes to one of our events, or a client when I was doing my financial planning stuff, and they paid me and I saw them win, I was like, this is amazing. I care about them. I see them winning. I see them building their family life or building their business. I've got more money in the bank account now. It's a reciprocal relationship. It's good for everybody. And that's the kind of relationships I'm interested in.
Totally. Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if how much of this is from a relationship perspective. I think some guys might have the mindset of receiving first before giving, because maybe they add meaning that it's more genuine if if I get in return because I had to give first, then it diminishes the giving to me.
To me, that sounds like a feminine thought where it's almost like the idea of like, well, he should just know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
well, you know,
Totally.
I don't know. I've never felt that. Have you felt that?
No, but I'm trying to think of the scenarios by which
You're just coming up with ideas. Yeah.
like that, or maybe even in the work environment. Like, hey, here's I bet this could be relatable to some people, is where we're worried about how we show up in the org and our ego and our importance, and that's the priority over helping someone else win. And if that's the case, then I would say people all know you anyway. Like, you're not, like, the perspective or the perception of me as an individual in the workplace is exactly what it is. If I help more people win, trust me, it's going to be perceived more positive than negative than me winning and other people not winning. I don't know. I think it's just scarcity mindset, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I was pulling up something here. There's a scripture. Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up. So I'm not gonna pull it up, but it's in Matthew, it looks like, and I'm paraphrasing, but the scripture is, "By their fruits ye shall know thee." And so if you want to know if a person's good, just look at the fruit.
Yeah.
Like, is this a person who's producing? Is this a person who's admired by others? Is he respected by others? Is he creating opportunities for other people? Well, that's a good human being right there. Versus somebody who's isolated, alone, maybe perpetually broke, maybe takes advantage of other people don't like him. That's probably a pretty good indicator that something's wrong with the tree.
Yeah.
The tree has gone bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's not redeemable, it is. But if you want to know somebody, look, in a work environment where you're talking about this thing of posturing and getting mine and that sort of thing, you're going to be found out regardless of who you are. If you're a scumbag piece of shit, we all know it.
Yeah.
And if you're a decent, kind, helping, abundant human being, everybody in the office knows it, including your supervisors. And there's nothing you need to do about it. Over time, I'm not saying don't champion for yourself. I'm not saying you shouldn't market yourself. You should. But everybody already knows. So just keep being more of that. And over time, it will pay off. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I like it. All right. Matthew Rolls.
Let's take one more, Kipp.
How did your meeting go with the mayor? I don't know about this. Apparently, I'm not up to speed on the latest of Mr. Mickler.
I haven't met with the mayor yet, but I'm thinking about what it would look like to be politically involved at a local level. And that's about as much as I really have thought about it. Like, I need to get involved. I need to know what's going on with the community. I need to be more involved in the community in a powerful way. I don't know if that's getting into politics. I don't know if that's supporting politicians. I don't know if that's getting involved with the school board or sitting on city council. I don't know. And so this is just for me an exploratory meeting to see what that might look like and what I should consider.
Okay, I like it.
Okay, you have any more?
We have a couple more questions if you wanted, or do you want to wrap up there?
Let's take one more. I got a jet.
Okay.
I've got a hard stop. So let's take one more question.
All right, here we go. I don't know, man. The Facebook questions, well, they're okay. They're okay. I won't be too harsh here. So we can go with, why do men suck at sharing knowledge? Or we can go with, what do you do when you set goals and plan for yourself? Because I have a hard time focusing.
I think we've answered the hard time focusing one enough.
Yeah.
I don't think that we've answered the why do men suck at sharing one.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. So Scott Brookins,
let's do that.
Why do men suck at sharing their knowledge? Suck at sharing their knowledge.
Well, there's a lot of reasons. Number one, we're just oblivious to it. Like, we're so selfish and self-centered. We don't even think about it. Like, we just do our thing and we're like, oh, wait, what? Somebody wanted to know? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're just completely clueless of what's going on. That might be one. That's probably the biggest culprit. Another reason that somebody might not share their knowledge is because if somebody else knows it, then they're perceived as less valuable.
This growth
you're,
mindset.
You're a
problem.
commodity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're the only one in the office who knows how to do that thing, you are a commodity. Yeah. And what I would say to that, to go back to our previous question, is share the knowledge, be abundant, but here's the catch. And this is probably why a lot of guys don't do it. You have to continue to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you learn a new skill and you're the only one in the office that knows it, so you're not going to share it with other people, then there's no reason for you to reinvent yourself. You can just rest on your laurels.
And there's no reason to promote you either into another position.
That's true. But if I start sharing and teaching other people my knowledge, then I'm going to have to go get new knowledge. Otherwise, I might not be as valuable as I once was. Yeah. And I actually think that's a wonderful thing. Kipp, if I can teach you to do something that I'm previously doing, then that frees me up, to your point, to go do something maybe better. But I'm going to have to exert myself to do it. So I think a lot of it just comes down to cluelessness. And I think the other part of it is just ego, pride, and arrogance.
Yeah. And the only thing I'd add to, I think most people don't know how to teach and coach very well either. So this could be an element of this where it's like, well, I shared my knowledge with them. You're like, yeah, but no one understood what you're saying. You didn't coach very well. No one was able to comprehend anything. And so I do think it's a talent. More and more I get into learning and development, people have no idea how humans retain information and learn. And we all grab what we've done throughout our entire lives, and we go, well, when I was a kid and I quote unquote learned, people spoke at me and I sat in a chair. So I'm just going to regurgitate that same thing and I'm going to preach at people, and that's how you teach people. And it's, of course, not an effective way of teaching anybody anything. But regardless, I think we just, out of ignorance of how do you share effectively, I don't think we do that very well either.
You know, to your point, one area of life I see this play out really frequently, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
There are some incredible tacticianers, and I won't name any names, but they are incredible at their skill, and their skill is not translatable to other people. They're horrible. Totally. Like their tone of voice, the way they explain things, their mannerisms. I'm like, how are you so amazing at this and so horrible at showing other people how to do this?
Totally.
It is a skill.
Yeah.
You said talent. I think there's probably some talent. Yeah. I look at the difference between a talent and a skill. Talent is more God-given, I think. You're naturally inclined. And a skill is something that you develop. So it's probably a little bit of nature and nurture. Yeah. So if everybody should learn how to teach, because that's what we do as human beings. Yeah. We teach.
Yeah. It's your conduit of influence. So if you can't coach and teach something to someone, then you can't impact others. Yeah, it's a big deal.
I mean, you can look at people who share similar things. Like take somebody like Jordan Peterson, who shares really valuable information. The way he teaches doesn't totally resonate with me, but you can't argue he resonates with people, clearly.
Totally.
And then you could take somebody who shares very similar information, but maybe they share it in an inferior way. And so the information's great. The knowledge is great on both sides of the equation. How many professors have an endless amount of wisdom and knowledge and aren't sharing it like Jordan Peterson is? So who's better? Jordan Peterson. Because he has a bigger impact than the guy who has just as much knowledge but hasn't learned how to share it with people in a resonating way.
Yeah, totally. It's crazy how that is, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's awesome, because then it means you just need to do a better job. You need to learn what you need to learn in order to impact and reach more people. And that's what we all want. Like, we all want to be more influential.
Totally. Well, and this is where Jim Quick is, that's why I love him so much as a author and a thought leader is really, he's tackling that conversation of how do we get data and knowledge retained, right? How do you make it sticky so people actually apply it to their lives. I mean, it's great stuff. And of course, he's been on the podcast a number of times, and really good stuff that he has. So, okay, man. Let's get you on your way. So a couple items. Of course, if you want to learn more about the Iron Council, you can go to orderman.com/Iron Council and sign up. We're not open for enrollment, but you can sign up for newsletters, stay informed. Maybe an update from you, sir, on the divorce, not death.
Yeah, so the website is available. We don't open until October 1st.
Okay.
But if you go to Divorce Not Death, this is for men in their first 12 months or so of divorce. So newly divorced, going through the divorce, what to expect, how to navigate it, from financial to legal ramifications to the rights that you have as a father, to maybe on the tail end to going back into the dating pool, to co-parenting, anything and everything in between. We've got I don't have all the answers. I'm going through it, fairly early myself, but we're bringing in experts from all of these different areas and realms to teach those of us who have gone through divorces or are in the early stages of a divorce how to navigate it most effectively. Very dark time, Kipp, I know, millions of other men know. It's a very, very dark time, and it doesn't have to be as long as it is for a lot of guys because they don't quite know how to navigate it. So that's what this course is all about. Got it. So divorcenotdeath.com.
And that starts in October 1st.
October 1st. Yep.
Excellent. And then you can connect with Ryan on X and Instagram at Ryan Mickler. Anything else, sir?
That's it. Guys, great questions today. Hopefully we gave you something to chew on. Go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.